In this video, we're going to discuss some angles. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Grown and Healthy, the channel where we explore self-improvement through movement. We often think of an anatomy that consists of straight lines, and nothing could be further from the truth. In a live specimen, we are actually a confluence of bows, of angles, of arches. We have 3 just in the sole of the foot alone. But if you consider the angle in which you should have your ankles, that of course is another bow. And of course, if you consider your hips, that is again another bow. Not to mention the back, of which the lumbar spine slopes in slightly, creating a bow, and of course the thoracic spine, in which it is another bow or arch. Now, that doesn't end there. We have also an arch within the elbow. And in this video, we're going to focus on the arch that exists behind the knee. ACL tears have been so prevalent as of late, not only because of the design of the shoes. Of course, cleats provide more grip and more traction, and along with that traction and poor mechanics, you are going to lead to a quick injury. And that's why we see it so prevalent in professional sports. A lot of people are being trained to move off of the heel, onto the heel. Both of those are incorrect. As we know, from the best position is the athletic stance. Deepens these arches and provides us with the ability to respond very quickly. Our reaction time helps us stay away from the zone of injury. And if you can react really fast, you will be less prone to injury. And what we're finding is that people are making movements that straighten the body, and then we're putting load, and that load goes straight to the ground. The ground then grabs us, and then we have no give. And what you have to understand is that the arch gives us play. It is the give that we need in order to respond efficiently. So in this video, I'm going to explain how the knee bend pertains to walking. Now, as you know, I advocate for a 4-foot strike for walking. Now, we are not talking about walking to your kitchen sink. We are talking about walking for the intention of walking. And if we are intentionally walking for exercise to reach a destination, we have no thought of actually stopping. And that's what a heel strike is. A momentary stop, a halt in our motion. So if we are walking for the sake of walking with the intention, we just want to keep going. We have no intention of stopping. So why are we putting our heels down? Now, don't get me wrong. If you're shopping in the mall and you are window shopping and you want to stop at every window that you see, then maybe this might benefit you. But in terms of activity, this won't help you at all. In fact, what you're finding is that if we are constantly stopping on a dime with the heel, we are then bringing that sheer force into play for 8,000 steps a day. Some people who are doing 10,000 steps a day are practicing such an unfortunate pattern that it will lead to not only knee pain, but low back pain, hip pain, and everything else in between. Now, I know our channel focuses mostly on the foot, and everyone's main focus in terms of their flat feet or pronated feet is the medial arch. But we also have a transverse arch and a lateral arch. As I've explained before, the arches don't stop there. The idea is that we want to be in a position of bounce. We should be giving with each move that we make. So that means I give here, I give here, and I give at the ankles. Now, because of conventional shoes, many people have such stiff ankles that they have no idea that they should be in a state of bounce. If you have hyperpronated feet, you will find that as this gives and allows the foot to straighten, that also you probably have either knee valgus or hyperextended knees. Now, in this video, I'm going to show that if you can walk and use your given bend, your given arch, and keep it supple, that it will provide you with enough spring and enough efficiency to make walking pleasurable. Normally, I would swing one foot forward, keeping hips centered, keeping the ankle falling below the hips, keeping the suppleness of the leg. Many people lack the hamstring strength in order to keep this arch intact. Now, if you decide to transition from a walk into a run, you'll be in for a very frightening surprise because your hamstrings have not been trained and are not strong enough to handle the load of a sprint, much less the deceleration of a sprint or jog. The ability of you to train your hamstrings in everyday walking situations will lead to greater resiliency when you decide to speed up your tempo. And that's all running is if you're walking properly. It is basically increasing your angle of attack. We have a natural arch and we are trying to maintain that arch. So what that means is that we are going to throw away this straight leg. With that, we walk forward and contralaterally swinging the upper body, the torso, so that we can maintain balance. It is so unnecessary to land on the heel that just think about the idea that if I had a jump rope and if I were to jump just not even a centimeter off of the ground, I would always jump off of the forefoot and return to the forefoot first before even resuming a heel contact. So, and ask yourself why? Why instinctively do you know not to jump and then land on your heel, right? And we're not talking about a high jump where we have to create contraction and we're jumping high into the air and then we're gonna land on the heel. Even the most subtle, even the lowest jump, we'd never even consider instinctually to raise the forefoot, keep it raised in the air and land on the heel first. So why are you doing this when you're walking forward? If you're walking forward, you've added a significant amount of pressure to the heel. And this heel pressure, this lack of stability, we are seeing on the fields of professional sports and amateur sports causing injuries. Your best posture will come from a responsive state, from being in a state of suppleness. So we're taught that the proper anatomical stance is like this. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, if there is a long rod going up my body and there are only bones, yes, that is what it would look like. But once you add tendons and muscles, then you understand that no, we are actually full of arches. Down to my hand has an arch. Just consider that. And this allows for responsiveness. If you do include the glutes, think of it as a symbiotic move in which you coordinate squeezing the glutes and also strengthening the hip flexors. You see, when you walk, especially with a forefoot strike in a natural pattern, you want to use the spring that exists in the hips. And of course, I'm exaggerating, but if you find that you are unable to actually land with your foot below the hips, it is because you lack the hip extension strength necessary to do so. And we can understand we're sitting down most of our lives these days. And with that positioning, this angle has not been well practiced. What you'd like to do when you're walking with a forefoot manner is to push the hip forward. And you find that once I push the hip forward, the ankle lands right below the hips with no issue. And then I just push again, ankle again, lands below the hips. I have the arch. And this is how you move. And it will be effortless once you start engaging the hip flexors. Your psoas, the upper quad muscles, provide the ability to extend the hips. The elongated glute bridge allows for you to build this arch ability, the lower portion of the hamstring and the upper portion of the hamstring. Now, if you keep it in the basic positioning, which is heel slightly in front of the butt, yes, you will develop a good amount of hip flexion. And if you find that it is too easy, then you can try lifting one leg at a time. But what I'd like you to do for the purpose of this exercise for walking is to elongate the distance of your heel from your butt. And you can go gradually to almost a straight leg, which is actually the goal of the exercise, is that if I can get your foot so far in front of your butt and mimic the arch needed in your leg for day-to-day walking, you will find that the transition from a heel strike to a forefoot strike walk will be much easier. It'll be more sound and you'll have more confidence in what you're doing. A lot of times people will fold and they'll see that the foot lands in front because we are folding. If you can learn to extend, you'll find that you'll have no problem with the touchdown of your foot. In future episodes, we're gonna go over this internal rotation, which again is supported by the groin arch, which is going to play an important part in your stability. We're seeing a lot of the knee injuries, ankle injuries, because we are falling low. We're falling with that pronation. We're landing on the heel. And so now we've just knocked out all of the responsiveness in the lower leg. And along with enough practice, we can also disconnect the proper ability of the adductor. And you need all of these because what you'd like when you're moving is for it to be, let me angle it properly, you want it to be out. And what you'll find is that the more that you have stability within the adductors, then the foot arch will come alive. Then your medial arch will have an easier time. If you're strengthening your feet and strengthening your arch, and here is basically a dead zone, it's just gonna put undue pressure that the foot cannot support solely by itself. If we can learn to create a solid line throughout, then you'll find that it'll be easier to keep those arches up through day-to-day walking and use on the court and off. Start from the easiest position that you find and gradually create distance between your butt and the heel. Now, I don't want you to have a flat foot position. I need just the heel on the ground, and so that your forefoot is left to mimic how I would like you to stride forward. When walking, we are thinking of bringing the foot back, the forefoot back, and propelling. You see, that glide that you're hearing is the traction. If you can maintain that glide, you will have a solid gait cycle. That is the ideal of the type of traction that we're trying to engage in. Now, you're seeing that I'm elevating my hips to do this, but if you're walking naturally, that traction sound that is being made actually no longer makes any sound because it is what I'm using to propel myself forward. And that's how you should be propelling yourself forward also. I'd like for you to try these elongated glute bridges for at least 8 to 12 reps on each leg. If you find that it is easy to do 2 legs at one time, then I'd like you to raise one leg off of the support and then practice doing 1 leg at a time. Immediately after doing 2 to 4 sets of each leg, I'd like you to immediately walk and see the difference, feel the difference, build that proprioception. Not only will you walk in an effortless manner, you will also have a better posture because now you're engaging in the proper balance of your hips. If you also suffer from anterior pelvic tilt, or you think that you have it and it is extreme, you'll find that you will be immediately relieved because now you are working your psoas and your hip flexors. And now that they're happy to be in balance with the glutes, they're gonna move you forward.